What's up, you guys? My name's Alex, and today we are going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in Puyallup, Washington. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Alex Bradshaw. I am a local realtor in the greater Seattle area, and I love making videos about the different cities here and what it would be like to live in them. So if you have any questions about moving to Washington State as a whole or any of the cities that I talk about, please feel free to reach out. My number is 253-250-7520, and I would love to help you guys out. But without further ado, let's dive into this video about the 4 pros that I got and 3 cons of living in Puyallup, Washington. Pro number 1 is that the home price in Puyallup, Washington is very affordable. Now, the average home price in Puyallup is $530,000, which is much lower than the Seattle average of $770,000. And although the average is $530,000, you can find many homes under that 500 number and even under that 450 number that'll suit you quite well. Another thing to mention is that the land square feet that you have per house is actually an average of 4,500 square feet, which is quite a bit compared to the average of 3,000 up in Seattle. Which means you got a lot more land if you buy a house down in Puyallup, Washington. Another thing to add on to that, there is actually quite a bit of new development that is taking place in Puyallup. So if you are one of the people that really enjoys that newer development and newer home feel, you're absolutely going to be able to find it down there. But if you like that old school style, or you know how not every house looks exactly the same, you can also find that with the older models that they have down there. Pro number 2 is that Puyallup has a very low crime rate. Now, according to niche.com, the crime rate in Puyallup, Washington is actually 10% lower than the Washington State average. On top of that, you have a median age of 38 years old, and 50% of the homes owned are owned by families. Another thing to note is that the poverty rate is only 5.6%, which is also 10% lower than the Washington State average. So if you want a safe neighborhood, a safe place for your kids to grow up in, Puyallup's not a bad choice to consider. The third pro that I have for you guys is that the State Fair is located in Puyallup, Washington. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with the State Fair or don't even know anything about Washington at all, we have it every single year at the Puyallup Fairgrounds, and on top of that, there's always events going on at this Puyallup Fairground. You have thrifting events, you have graduations that go on there. I mean, there was even a hot tub convention there last week. So when it comes to things to do down there, the fairgrounds is an awesome place to bring your family and to enjoy some good fair food. Pro number 4 of living in Puyallup, Washington is there's lots of local foods and a great community feel. Now, if you've ever been to the Puyallup Fairgrounds, near it is what I like to call or consider Old School Puyallup, which is a series of a bunch of small restaurants that are all super good, old brick buildings that it's honestly just a great feel and vibe to be around. The population size in Puyallup is roughly 40,000 with a 1.5% increase year over year. So it's not super crowded. You only have 40,000 people, but it's also not the largest city around. Another thing to note is that the school system in Puyallup, Washington is ranked a A- according to niche.com, which is actually much higher than the B- average that Washington State carries as a whole. So we talked about the 4 pros of living in Puyallup, Washington. Let's dive into the 3 cons that I have. Con number 1 is that you're about an hour away from Seattle and 25 minutes away from Tacoma, which are the 2 largest cities. So if you are looking for a place to live and want to work in Seattle, it's not the worst case scenario, but it's definitely not ideal if you don't like to drive. However, Tacoma's only 25 minutes, so if you plan on working in Tacoma, which has a ton of jobs, you're not too far, and it's a great safe place to live. On top of that, the nearest airport is 45 to 50 minutes away, so if you're constantly flying, that's something to keep in consideration. And to add, there's not much nightlife in Puyallup, so if you want to really enjoy like the club, you're going to want to go up north. However, there are a ton of good bars and pubs that are in Puyallup. The second con that I have for you guys is the traffic in Puyallup, Washington is horrible. The main highways 167 and 512 are always packed during rush hour. And the main road is a ton of stoplights, so you're constantly stopping and going. And if you commute a lot for work, you're already going to run into the Tacoma traffic. So this is kind of to add on to that, an L. However, during the day, if you catch it at the right times, it's actually not too bad. It's very bearable. Con number 3, and the last con that I have for you guys, is that Puyallup can be considered crowded in some areas. Now, I touched on this earlier, but there's lots of new development taking place in Puyallup, and most people like the new development. They like the newer home. However, a lot of people also don't like being crammed next to neighbors. So although there are places in older homes that you can definitely find with a ton of land, there's also these newer developments where you don't necessarily have a huge lot size. There's also just certain areas in Puyallup that are like designated as newer developments where all there is newer development. And then there's part of Puyallup that's more like farmland, where you have a lot more space and your neighbors are an acre away. So you can definitely pick what you like and enjoy. But with all of that being said, that concludes my pros and cons of living here in Puyallup, Washington. Again, my name's Alex Bradshaw. I'm a local realtor here in the Washington area. If you have any questions about moving here or just questions in general, my number is 253-250-7520, and I'd love to help you guys out. To add to that, if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below, leave a subscribe, and I hope to help you guys in this video and in other videos to come. Have a good one, you guys. Take care.